I get to share with you a personal story today of when my sister and I decided to declutter my mom's home. And this was an emotional process for sure, because we definitely were still grieving. My mom had passed away in the year 2020, so just a couple years ago. We would enter the home and feel profoundly overwhelmed because my mom was not a minimalist. But then there were the bins. Bin after bin after bin of good intentions. One day when we were going through her office, we found this bin of stationery. And as I dug through more, I realized, oh my gosh, there were greeting cards, like greeting cards upon greeting cards upon greeting cards. And then as I looked into the greeting cards, I realized, oh my gosh, this one was for me. I know that this one was for me, but she never got around to it. She had the best of intentions, and yet it never happened. I definitely was emotional because I knew that it was for me. I could just tell because of the nature of the card or the holiday or the occasion that it was for. And it just was sweet because I did eventually get the cards, but it just wasn't at the time that I would have wanted them. And I certainly would have wanted to have her thoughtful message inside. But I think what was sweet about it is like I got to see her heart for me and her heart towards me. And she wasn't well in the last few years of her life, so I know that there were definitely other factors, and she's very deserving of grace and mercy as she was aging and not doing well. And it was sweet. There was a sweetness with it because I felt like, oh, well, I got it eventually, you know? Well, hi there. My name is Dawn, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, a homeschooling mom, and a Jesus lover. I live in Minnesota with my sweet husband, Ben, of 16 years, and we have 3 kids between the ages of 10 and 13. I want to share the 2 things that have to go along with our bins of good intentions in order for them to become accomplished goals. When we have bins like these, right, they tend to sit in our garage, in our basement storage room. At least that's where mine are. So now you know where I hide everything. And then we say, oh, I'll get to that later, right? And I bet my mom would have said like, oh, I'll send her that card like another time. She had the best of intentions. This could be exercise equipment. This could be photo albums. It could be scrapbooks, as you'll see here. These are all my scrapbooks from my years growing up. And I have the best of intentions to scan in, to my little photo app, everything that I want to save. And then I'll have a record of it and I can release the stuff, right? The tote can go. And I know some people aren't comfortable with throwing that kind of thing away. I am. So as long as I have an electronic record of it, I'm fine. It's all a very personal choice. And I would challenge you to reduce the amount of stuff so that you can experience the benefits, obviously, of the decluttering and the minimalist lifestyle, which is what we're kind of talking about. When we declutter our story, we're freeing up space for our heart to breathe. We're doing a little bit of spring cleaning of the heart. And I know that if I have bins of good intentions, but I don't actually follow through, like meeting a goal or accomplishing a task, I actually don't feel good about myself. And I know that my mom was very guilt-ridden. I know she felt badly about the stuff that she had around. I know that she didn't want to leave a mess for myself and my sisters. I know that was not her heart. She had good intentions. And yet it still happened. And so here's the first thing that I think is a definite must. If we're going to hang on to a bin, we have to have a purpose attached to it. And I think about how everything is given to us by God, right? So we are stewards, whether we like it or not. We are stewards of everything that comes into our home, through our home, to us, through us. And we get to decide, what am I going to do with this? Whether it's a blessing or not a blessing, I have to kind of deal with it. I definitely have a process for how I do that. But when it comes to bins, I have to have a purpose for this stuff. And if I cannot find a purpose for it, whether it's earthly or eternal, it's got to go. So my purpose here is just to remember some highlights of my life story. So I have to think about that. Why do I want to do that? Is that important? Well, yeah, I think it is important for my own journey, for me to be able to reflect and look back and see how far I've come and to be able to tell stories to my kids and my grandkids one day. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to show my kids what life was like, what I did when I was young, all that kind of stuff. But then I can let it go. And I find that this bin I kind of avoid because when I was young, I was very much in a kind of performance-based family. It was all about accomplishments and awards and all of that. And later in life, I realized, life is a lot more about who I am than what I do or accomplish. And so I feel even more comfortable releasing some of these things because they no longer define me. These bins are just full of different layers of our own hearts. And it's kind of amazing how much they actually contain. You may need to actually reflect, like, do I have a purpose? How about the greeting cards and the stationery? Do I have a purpose? Well, yes, I want to connect with people. I want to bless them with an encouraging note. I want to remember birthdays and holidays and occasions, and I want to be thoughtful and loving towards people. These are great purposes. Maybe it's exercise equipment. Is there a purpose in having it? For sure. There is absolutely a purpose to live a vibrant life, to have energy, to fulfill your purpose. These things are worthwhile in themselves, but without a purpose, they just sit in the closet. And that's not something I want for you because, of course, it creates a host of issues, and it's not a blessing actually to us or to those in our families, especially at the end of our life, like I experienced. One idea is to actually take a stack of Post-it notes and to write the purpose and stick it on the bin. So on this bin, I might say to remember. So the second thing that I feel really needs to be attached to a bin of good intentions, of course, is a plan. So when it comes to my little bin of keepsakes and scrapbooks and whatnot, I have to put that on the calendars. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen. And because I'm a homeschool mom, I push these kinds of projects to summer. So I make a list actually throughout the year of things that I want to accomplish over the summertime months and when I have a much freer schedule at. And I also am not afraid to pay my kids. So if you have kids that are old enough to do this kind of work for you, I'm going to pay my daughter to scan in the photos. Then it's a done deal. So I can actually outsource a lot of the work as well. But what's happened now is I have looked at the bin. I have determined that it serves a purpose in my life, not just a temporal one, but actually an eternal one for me, the generational stories and so forth. And then I now have a plan. It will happen in summertime. And how will I execute that plan? By delegating some of the work to my kids. This is the flow that actually has to happen in order for us to actually realize our goals, for us to move from the good intentions to the actualization of our goals. How many of you know when you accomplish this kind of thing, it feels so good? Happy brain chemicals are released when we accomplish a goal and when we're working towards a goal and we expect a reward. And those two chemicals in this case are serotonin and dopamine. And so when those are released, we actually experience this, I did it. So what am I really saying? I'm saying you're going to feel happier. When you release the bins of good intentions, we feel happier. We feel more accomplished. We actually don't operate in guilt and shame and condemnation because we're stewarding things well that God has given us. And I didn't really cover, what about the bins that I can't find a purpose for? Let them go. Let them go. Because honestly, what I've discovered is that if I can't find a purpose for something, somebody else can. And that is stewarding something well. When I was cleaning out my mom's house, my sister and I found, I hope you're sitting down, 11 sets of china. 11. I'm still kind of speechless about it. And we looked at each other and thought, what on earth are we going to do? Do people use china anymore? I don't think one needs more than one set, even if you do. And so we gave ourselves permission to release the china. We realized, you know what? Somebody out there is going to absolutely love this. There is someone out there who's looking for this exact pattern. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And so I want to encourage you to think open-handedly with your bins of good intentions. Maybe my mom intended to host a lot of dinner parties. I'm actually not sure. But the purpose and plan never happened. And so her dream was never realized. Well, now look what's happened. It's in the hands of people who can appreciate it and enjoy it. And that is freely stewarding. We're freely giving and releasing things that God has blessed us with or brought across our path. And if we can't find a purpose for it, then our responsibility is to share it with others. Isn't that the whole idea? Once you've named your purpose, I want you to then consider going to your calendar and actually finding a spot on it. And maybe it's not for several months, like my summer project. Let it be a priority, because I will say on a personal note that for my children, I definitely don't want them to have the same experience that I did after my mom's passing. While I don't blame her for it or hold any ill will, and certainly my sisters and I actually had a lot of fun, it was totally overwhelming, and I don't want that for my kids. And so I had kind of vowed to myself that I'd be very purposeful and planful with the things that the Lord has given me, and then freely share them so that they too can live that way, where we live light. We don't have to drag all this stuff along with us, but we can live light and also happier because of our moods that have been boosted, and by not feeling shame and condemnation. And if you do try the Post-it note exercise, I want to hear all about it. I'm excited to hear what the bins of good intentions are in your life and how they become actualized dreams and goals. And all you need is some permission and some intention behind it. And I know that you're going to walk a little bit lighter.